airborne. At the time we were evacuated, me and my family, we took a car, and my parents-in-law as well as my children were with me, and we left the refugee camp, and we were looking for a safe road to be able to leave through. And as we were leaving the refugee camp, we went through a road called Wadi Birqin, around Al Auda roundabout. There we were targeted, and they showered us with live ammunitions. And at the time I was injured by the shattered glass. I had some glass in my eyes and in my head, and we arrived to Birqin, and that's where we received first aid by Palestinian first aiders, and people came and started offering help. Then I was sent to a hospital to receive treatment, and now I am healed. We started looking for a place to stay. I stayed at my brother's house until I was healed, and we were receiving help from different organizations such as like YMCA or WCA. I was a volunteer as part of Nasij project offered by Kayla Nansa, in order not to forget, and Nasij is a fabric. And then we started looking for shelters, and we came here to the residence of the Arab American University. Here I am with my family, with 5 members, in a very small room, and not all facilities are available. There is no privacy whatsoever. Even the residence where we stay, there are people that we don't know. There are people from the refugee camp, but I don't know all of them. Everybody is from a different family, different neighborhood. Our suffering is similar. We all lost our homes, and we lost our refugee camp, and we live on the hope every single day to go back to the refugee camp, to live our normal life, where we can see our beloved ones, our families, and our friends. Here we are scattered. Honestly, nobody knows anything about the others unless via phone. It is very difficult to move around, and mobility is very restricted. Now some people are left in the city, and some others went to the surrounding villages. It's Ramadan, and up to the moment we have not met at all. Sometimes I, myself, my husband, and my children, we have iftar together, but we really hope to live to be together on the iftar table with the family. My family-in-law are far, and they are elderly, and they have chronic diseases. More interestingly, because of the oppression that we have been exposed to, my mother-in-law has diabetes, and it reached 600 because of the displacement and the pressure that we have felt. We don't know what our destiny is going to look like, or what is going to happen in the future. Our life is all about being scattered. It's a displacement followed by a displacement from one place to another. There is no hope. Even the education of our children is lost because we are not staying in a stable place. I cannot send them to a school when we are moving from one place to another. It's true that it is a place that is sheltering me and my family, but it's not my home. It's not my refugee camp. May God ease it up on all the displaced and all the Palestinian people. Hello, I am the displaced Sumud Jawad Bawakna from Jenin refugee camp. I am a student in international relations from Birzeit University. I'm a graduate. in international relations from Birzeit University. Prior to the incursion of the Israelis to Jenin city and the refugee camp in December 31st, 2024, and beginning of January 2025, during the daylight hours when everybody was going to their work and everybody was on their job, and high density of people in the markets, and everybody was in their offices. We saw the Israeli military forces coming to the refugee camp. None of us was able to reach their homes, and we were already outside our homes, and each of us were scattered in different places, and it took a long time for us to find each other. And the Israelis were centered in different locations in the city, which made it difficult to move or to reach to your home, especially with the abrupt firing of live ammunitions. And in the past, I was injured that prevented me from entering the refugee camp or to actually risk my health and try or attempt to enter the refugee camp. The challenges we face as women is that we don't have time to practice our tasks or even skills as women at the refugee camp and in the city because of the repeated Israeli incursions. All of this is affecting us as women. We have needs, and displacement is not a thing that is suitable for a woman or a child. It is in general a major challenge with a lot of needs that are not met because of the limited capabilities and resources that can be provided by different organizations. We are living our lives now in a dilemma between what will happen and what is happening now and what are the plans of the Israelis for the refugee camp. Is there a possibility for us to return or not? However, we will return to our homes. May God will it. We will find whatever we find. By the end of the day, at least it's our homes. We will live there, even if it was just rubbles or debris. For myself and my colleagues, my experience was the least harsh, as I was already outside of the refugee camp during the incursion hours, and I managed to reach my family within hours. However, there are many experiences that are extremely difficult at the refugee camp. Many were not able to enter the refugee camp for long hours, and this by itself is a challenge, whether it was for a woman who left her daughter inside the refugee camp or her family and was not able to reach her except for after a very long time. So I just want to express my gratitude to the WCA for all of the initiatives and the support that they provide to us as women and the psychosocial support they provide, especially in tough times. Thank you. Peace be with you. I am Ala from refugee camp, from Jenin refugee camp. I am a displaced young woman, and I am a volunteer with the YWCA, and our displacement started on Thursday in January 2025, and as soon as the airplane started bombardment, I was alone with my children, and as soon as the bombardment started, the windows started shattering, and we went down to the lower level, and we went to my sister's home, and we stayed there for 2 days without electricity or water, especially that with the random shooting, they destroyed the water tanks, and we started receiving some water, sometimes only by very small quantities. We were among the very few who were left in the refugee camp, and we were 35 people in in 3 rooms, and we spent about 2 weeks with the hope that they would leave in a day or two, and we didn't take anything with us because we were hopeful that we will go back, similar to what happened to our the parents and the ones who preceded them. So we didn't take anything. We left the house, and we were 35 people in one house. We spent 2 weeks together, and then you can imagine the lack of privacy. It's true that we are all relatives, but eventually there is no privacy whatsoever. Now, currently, we are 2 households in one house, and the situation is catastrophic in the refugee camp. And my children were actually among the top students. And if I want to make sure that they keep their education, we need internet connection. And this has not been taken into consideration. As displaced people, we cannot really guarantee the education of our children. And my children spent 3 weeks without education, which has affected their mental state as well as our mental state in light of what's happening. And we don't know anything about what had happened to our homes. I attempted twice to go into the refugee camp. The latest was last Thursday. I was trying to get some needs and some clothes for the children. As soon as we entered the homes, we didn't know that the bulldozer was in the area above our homes. We found the house destroyed, bombarded, and we tried to take any of the needs that we can find before us. And the bulldozer started working, and the house started shaking, and we got scared, myself and my sister. So we ran out of the house, and we found a battalion coming to us. Our backs were to them, and they started yelling, come back, come back. And where would we go back? I didn't even imagine myself going back to ask what is happening. We kept running, myself and my sister, until basically we only had a small bag that we managed to salvage from the house because everything was destroyed. We kept running, and they were yelling behind us and following us. We kept running. There were some other girls in the neighborhood, and we were running unconsciously until we reached to the governmental hospital. It was a long distance, and then we took a taxi and left. Until we saw our home on Thursday in the morning. Our homes were still standing. In the afternoon, the same day, the homes of our neighbors were destroyed completely and nothing was standing. Currently, I know nothing about my home. We ask God soon to be released from this situation. Peace be with you. I am Adar from Jenin refugee camp. I am a mother of 5 children. I have some children. I have a child with disability. We are 8 individuals in the house. I was going to take my son to his university, who's a first-year student, and the remaining of the children with their father were in the house, and I have a daughter of 2 years old. So what happened as I was trying to bring my child to the university, we were in Jericho. We received the news that the refugee camp was attacked and that they closed the roads and nobody is allowed in or out. And in this situation, I drove back, and the road was super long and very difficult, and nobody wanted to go to Jenin due to the situation there. I spent about half a day on the road just to be able to enter the city. So I was leaving from one bus to another until I got to a proximity of Jenin. There was an incursion. I didn't know anything about what was happening. My family was still in the refugee camp. I was not able to reach them, and I reached to an area in Jenin that is far from the refugee camp. I rented a home, and then I stayed with some family in the vicinity of the refugee camp. And when people started actually leaving the refugee camp, I managed to get in touch with people and ask about my family. I spent 2 days without being able to see my daughter of 2 years old until we managed to meet somewhere. Now we have rented out a home and we are living there, but we also hosted some other households from the refugee camp. We spent approximately 3 weeks with the other families, sharing everything that is available to us, to the point even simple things. The children were able to eat. They slept on their jackets without even blankets. We were just seeking a shelter that will allow us to survive, with the hope that they will leave the next day and all of us will return to our homes. A day followed another, and it has took so long, and everybody started looking for shelters, and most of them came here to the Arab American University. I was a volunteer with the Nasij project with the YWCA, and they were very supportive of us and always getting in touch with us, providing psychosocial support to myself and other displaced Palestinians from the refugee camp, which was extremely important for us as displaced people, and especially with the ambiguity of our destiny to follow. And I have a child with cerebral palsy. I have a son with cerebral palsy who's 45 years old, and he has no one except for his brother. So to take him outside, to carry him on your back, to leave the refugee camp and reach to a safe area and check and find the other children. He has a daughter of 2 years old, so the situation was extremely difficult and tough, and there is a lot of risk, and you have to follow a certain path. I was not able to get in touch with them, nor they with me. However, they needed to leave to a safe place, so they went to a location that was far further from where I was. I was in the north, and they were in the south of Jenin, so it was very difficult until they secured a transportation, and we met again. And now all the time you hear these words going on and on. When are we going back to our homes? When do we go back to the refugee camp? Why is it us and not other people? So we know nothing about our homes at the moment. We attempted several times to return to the refugee camp, but we were prevented from that. And there was some time where we had some coordination, and all people went home, and they told us there is no coordination, and we spent almost 2 hours waiting for them to allow us to entry to the refugee camp, and they didn't allow us. We attempted to enter the refugee camp without the coordination, and they started throwing at us sound bombs. And there was a woman who was walking with me, and she got injured in her leg. Her name was Nujum, and they transported her immediately. Unfortunately, at the time, the ambulance was not able to reach her, so we had to take her ourselves to the refugee to the hospital. And for us as women, it is really difficult to think that we have nothing to provide to our children. No food, no clothing, not even the basic items that usually you would take with you. In such situations, we were not able to take it. Also, the assistive devices for persons with disabilities, they didn't allow us to take anything outside with us. So this has made it difficult for us as displaced people. And in terms of our needs and basic requirements, they are barely met. We really hope that this catastrophe will end soon and that we will return to our homes, although many of us know that many of our homes are no longer standing. So we are working right now with the YWCA, preparing the children on what to expect and what they will see as they will return back to the refugee camp, especially that they have spent a long time outside. Maybe they will not find their homes. They're not going to find their beds. their clothes or their toys. The entire neighborhood that they have known since they were born is destroyed. So as mothers and as women, we try to make it easier for our children, but the wound is still bleeding inside of our hearts. So we really hope from God to remove this dark cloud from our lives, and that life goes back to sorts of normalcy. I will start from where you ended. You said this is not the first time that the Jenin refugee camp has been incurred. You've been suffering for 2-3 years the same. How does this affect you as mothers? How do you deal with your children? What do you do in order to mitigate this hardship? For me as a mother, I have children of all ages. I have 2 years, 11 years old, and adolescents. So each age has a certain advice that I provide. We have been displaced several times from our home. This is not the first time. Every incursion, we were kicked out of our house. And my house is located in a place that it is one of the first houses to be destroyed, and we have fixed it several times. But when my son will start having epileptic fits, it was very difficult to take him to make sure or secure first aid to go to the hospital. So this has always been a negative impact on the children. So I used to sit with them sometimes, even during the incursion. I used to tell them stories and tell them tales, although I was still bleeding and extremely scared internally of the unknown destiny and future. So I used to try to help them forget by playing with them or telling them stories, hug them, sit while hugging them, while trying to make sure not to show them that I am scared, although I am terrified internally. And I'm doing that in order to make sure that they don't become mentally ill in the future. You cannot allow the children to see your fear, especially that we have seen the results of such action on children who have not been treated properly in such situations, in order to make sure that they don't end up with remnants of psychological and mental issues. However, this time it is really difficult to deal with the situation or to kind of mitigate the impact on the children, especially that it has taken longer than usual. What do you feel your needs are like currently as displaced women? The needs here, even when we were back at the refugee camp, we were provided with psychological support, and it is really useful. This is something that was provided by YWCA, and we have went through an experience with them through Nasij or Fabric project, and they were talking about violence of all sorts, and many women have benefited from that experience. Now we are facing the greatest violence, on top of which is the economic violence. Women do not have the capacity or capability of acquiring even the basic needs. Domestic violence, social violence. There are all sorts of violence that you are facing and you face in such situations. Imagine that you and the entirety of your household or family are in a small room of 3 by 3 meters. A meter and a half, 1.5 square meters are for furniture or whatever is available, and the rest is the space that you live with. And the hygiene and health needs are the most important. And again, I go back to the psychological support, which is important, even if we do it periodically, to run activities for the children, for women, to provide support or to provide psychological relief sessions. And now we are in the gravest need for this. We need to gather, we need to share our concerns and our pain. Sometimes when you see the pain of others, you feel your pain has been relieved. I believe I speak on behalf of myself and behalf of all my other sisters here. We are under a lot of pressure. When you are in your home, regardless of how difficult the economic situation is, you can provide the children with whatever you can. But now we have nothing else. I am choking on the words. It is difficult to express this amount of pressure and hardship. And the question that kills you the most from the children: does our home stand still? Are we going to return? They know for certain that their homes are no longer standing. Although we don't see the news, we don't have screens anymore, but they hear. As soon as they go out and they see other people, they hear that the house of that family has been destroyed, the neighborhood was destroyed, and they come to you, Mom, is our home destroyed? I can't say yes, even if that is the case, because it's just going to make it more difficult for them. And many other questions. But we tried to enter the refugee camp, but it was very difficult, and they showered us with live ammunitions, and I saw death with my own eyes. So the needs include hygiene and health requirements, food. We are coming soon to Eid, which is the Islamic celebration, and they want clothing. They want to feel similar to other children. For the economic situation, I believe it's a situation that is affecting everyone. But I think is extremely important that we need to talk about all the time is education. When the children are at home and they receive their education through Teams, didn't you know, or didn't you think for a second, the displaced families, how they can do remote education for their children? Especially if your children are really good students at school and they have a good academic achievement. They need equipment, they need devices, because by the end of the day, if the children are if the children's education is interrupted for a long time, it makes them lose the interest or lose the ability to continue learning. So I believe we can be patient without food, without water, for a little bit, but, which is the requirement of everyone. But education is something that we need to keep asking for in light of these circumstances that we continue to live under for the children. When my child is asking me about the house, I should clarify that there is a potential for it to be destroyed or to be still standing. I am not supposed to lie to the child. We all have left our homes in the hands of God, and may God have the mercy on us, but we need to also explain to our children that by the end of the day, this is an occupation, and there is no guarantee when an occupation is attacking you that your home will be standing. One other thing I want to say is that we came here for a day, 2 or 10 days. Now it's been 47 days in this single incursion. There are many households who left their homes and their work barely provides for their food. Imagine people whose work has been interrupted for 45 days. I pay rent 2,000 shekels, almost $600, aside from the water, water and the food requirements. It was very difficult to take the son with disability to the hospital, and this was a huge burden. When I am in the refugee camp, I'm living in my own house. I'm not paying rent, so we don't know until when this will continue. Shall we continue living in this house or leave it to somewhere else? Is this going to take longer or not? So this is affecting our lives and our minds as parents as well. But we are trying to explain to them that we might be kicked out of the house at any moment, and I don't believe that the owner of the house will continue to provide us with shelter until forever. So this is difficult. It's very difficult for us, and many other households are the same. So we don't know what is the destiny of anybody is going to look like, or where anybody is going. All of our papers, documents, all of our belongings are in those houses that are being demolished as we speak. And by the end of the day, what do you expect of children when they were displaced? They took only a small blanket without any or covered themselves with their jackets. They had no blankets, no mattresses or anything. I believe this is going to stuck in their minds. As women from the refugee camp and as displaced women, especially in light of the holy month of Ramadan, how do you manage as women? What is your suffering like? The first day of Ramadan was the toughest, even tougher than the day of displacement. There was no Ramadan table that we are all used to. There was no call to prayer or adhan. My house was right next to the mosque. There is no decorations of Ramadan for my children. So this is not Ramadan for the children. One of my children was saying, this is not Ramadan anymore. And I kept telling them, do you think Ramadan is about the decorations? This is something that is spiritual. Everyone is depressed and everyone's tears are just hanging by a small thread, awaiting something to push it out of their eyes. We look at each other as women and we feel desperation. We were not able to cook. We cannot cook. They provide us with ready meals. Why you don't cook? We don't cook because we don't have the basic needs. We don't have a cooker. We don't have any kitchen kits, and there is no space even to cook if we have. So we rely on the charities that provide these meals. So whatever they offer you, you eat. Most of the time it's the same food. It's a meal of rice with some soup. You don't have salads. You don't have different types of food. Usually in Ramadan, at your own house, you have the special sets for Ramadan that you use. You would have juices, water, dates, none of which is existent at the moment, unfortunately. Currently, I'm not a mother. I am still single. But the idea is that you reach to a certain point that in any incursion of the Israelis, you fear the future and what will happen. For me, this incursion is no different than any other incursions that happened before, because it leaves us with the same questions all the time. It does have its own particularity this time because of the intensity of it. But even when I go to the university, every time I ask myself, where am I going? I would come back and I would be surprised with the checkpoint. I might pass the checkpoint and maybe the person behind me might not. So this is not a life that we we got used to it. We are patient, and it's true. But this is not something that anyone should be patient for. We still also don't know to what extent it's going to be even more intense in the future. As Palestinian, you are distinguished by the fact that you need to adapt to the circumstances. We are displaced, we adapted to the situation, and to a certain point, we tried to joke through our pain. So you might even smile despite your pain, and you would say something that, oh, my situation is much better than others. My home is half destroyed, whereas the homes of other people are fully destroyed. How to survive through Ramadan, how to survive through normal days. Up to the moment, we don't even know if the political developments will push them to remain longer or to push them to leave and withdraw from the refugee camp. The moment that they announce the end of the military operation in the city, and they ask us to practice our lives normally. So how can we practice our lives normally when the occupation still exists and these forces are spread all around? We attempted to try live our lives as normal as possible. We tried to adapt to having them among us, although it pains us, but tried to go to the market. We tried to walk the streets, even if it was painful to us at a certain point. But I would walk in the streets. But you can be surprised by any of the Israeli jeeps and stop me as I am walking. Maybe I'm going to buy only a bottle of juice from the supermarket. So the magnitude of the oppression, the attempt to destroy or erase the identity of a refugee camp. It is not possible for refugee camps who lived through over 70 incursions, or they try, for example, to undermine the fact that I am a daughter of a martyr, or they try to make the children forget how their grandfather was murdered in front of our eyes. Maybe they try to create new people out of us, or new minds that might be attempt to adapt to the Israelis or to live with the Israelis in peace. I don't even want to say in peace, because in peace is something that we need at some point, but now we need coordination for things. Imagine I left the refugee camp without even taking a blouse to warm myself with at night. So many different organizations are attempting to coordinate for the displaced people to go back to the refugee camp, to get any of the equipment. In our homes, we have everything. And in Ramadan, I am equipping a new house, which is not my own house. Yes, the idea is that the occupation needs to be ended and to disappear. But we are living in a reality where we are living under occupation, and we still need to ask for our rights despite that occupation. And according to international laws, for the occupiers, they need to provide at least the basic needs of and requirements of life, which are not being provided in here in this situation by this occupation. I cannot accept the idea to coordinate with the enemy in order to be allowed to enter my own house, to take my needs, or to ask permission from the occupation to enter my house that they have taken from me in order to sit in it. When we did the coordination, they asked us to go back, and then they told us that the coordination was cancelled. I am going to my house, and you are expecting me as a soldier or as an Israeli soldier that I will adapt to the fact that you are garrisoning in my own house. Nobody can accept the idea of being displaced. situation that they are trying to create between the people of the city and the people of the refugee camp. So, as people from the city, go live your life. But as a person from the refugee camp, your life should be difficult. I would spend long hours on the checkpoint just because my ID says that I am from a refugee camp or that I am a daughter of a martyr. I graduated a few days before the incursion of the refugee camp, and I had to wait 2.5 hours at the checkpoint. And my ID said that I am from a refugee camp, and I was wearing the Palestinian traditional dress with embroidery. So even as my right as a Palestinian of any sort, I am not able to live. What is your message as Palestinian women and displaced women to women of the world? To the entire world. We are suffering, and we hope that you will never experience what we experience. Our message to you is that we are strong. Thank God. We have seen a lot, and our experiences in life and in the incursions taught us to be strong and even to become stronger. I will never just adapt to what we live through. We keep hope and we try to spread it to all of the people around us. We keep saying that we will go back and we will rebuild the refugee camp and we will go back to our homes and live in our homes in the refugee camp, despite all of those who would say it's not going to happen. If they don't want us to return to the refugee camp, return us to where we were displaced from back in 1948, back in 1967. And I'm telling you, as women here in Palestine, in the refugee camps, you are strong, you are capable, and you can make sure that this will not go unnoticed. The women from Gaza can see you now. Would you like to say anything to them? Our message to the women of Gaza is, for sure, they are the true, strong women that we learn from. They are the lighthouse of our patience, resilience, and strength. No woman among us here would be remotely able to be patient and live through this pain if it wasn't for the patience that women of Gaza has expressed. For me, Gazan women has experienced an extremely difficult experience, and we have learned a lot from this is what we saw, and of course there is way beyond that we didn't see in the particularities of the stories of each of the women. There are many stories that haven't reached us. There are many circumstances between the woman and her family that we don't see on the screens. And this by itself is a huge challenge. We have learned from Gazan women how to overcome circumstances, how to remain resilient, how that under even the most extreme circumstances where their entire family was killed, they remained strong to the point that we even became shy to even talk about any of the losses that we have experienced in comparison to the women in Gaza. I just want to comment on something that my colleague said earlier, that we keep pushing and igniting that hope inside of us, because you need to find a way to stand strong and to remain strong throughout the pain. The war on Gaza has been super long and it has been ongoing for a long time, and there has been many casualties, and yet no one ever had lost hope. However, they remind themselves that the hope is conditioned. How and when am I going to be able to return? Is my home going to be rebuilt? These are questions that you need to remind yourself about all the time, because sometimes hope can be more painful than useful. When you give yourself a huge hope and then you are surprised with the harsh reality. you might lose courage to continue and to keep on going. So you need to remind yourself that there are always potentials for everything. I might be able to go back and I might not be able to go back. I might go through what my grandmother went through in 1948. Maybe now they want to destroy the geography of the refugee camp. These are questions that we need to keep in mind and to bear in mind. We cannot separate our emotions from our minds, but we need to be aware of all the different circumstances and possibilities. I would like to send out a greeting to all women of the world, because women are the source of resilience and strength wherever they are. I would like to tell them, live your lives, live in your homes, be with your families in peace. Our experience in comparison to the women of Gaza is nothing compared to the experience of women in Gaza. Greetings to the women of Gaza. They are the source of our strength. Whatever happens to us is nothing compared to what happened to the women of Gaza. They always faced all types of news with hope and hope of return. We have not suffered as much as they did, and therefore we take our strength from them. They have given an unprecedented example of resilience and strength. For the world, when it comes to the world, it's always sensitive, because as Palestinian people, we have been disappointed, despite that there are some people who stood by us, and all salute and greetings to them. We just hope that by the stance of the peoples of the world, by the Palestinian people, that some of the rights might be attained. You see the situation of Gaza, Jenin and Tulkarem now. Let's not forget the suffering of Tulkarem at the moment, who are suffering exactly as we are. We really hope from the world to be fair, or to be more fair with us. My message to the world, as my colleague said, be fair with us. Also, what we are suffering now is a genocide. Is a genocide against an entire people. That's it. I really hope from every single person around the world to put themselves in the shoes of Palestinians and to think a little bit. Would they bear what we are bearing at the moment if they were in our place? And then they can think for themselves and make the decision. So, for the UNRWA services as refugees, you know the decision that was issued against the UNRWA. What do you think as Palestinian women who have beneficiaries of UNRWA? Jenin refugee camp has been cut from all aids for a while, and now it's completely cut off. If I want to talk about Jenin refugee camp in particular, the services of UNRWA were very strong. And to be fair, the capabilities and capacities or resources that they have are limited, and had made it very difficult for them to provide the help that they would like to, and they needed to prioritize. And as a woman in Jenin refugee camp, my mother has diabetes and many other chronic diseases, including hypertension, and the tests that they used to give to pregnant women would get a follow-up from the health clinics of the UNRWA. In terms of the household needs, the UNRWA UNRWA was providing many compensations, but with the decisions of Trump and the cut of funding, they needed to prioritize in providing compensations. For example, my house windows are down, and the house of our neighbors is completely destroyed. So they actually go and try to compensate the houses that are damaged because of the limited resources. And at the moment, we don't know, because in its official statement, it said that it will continue to work and provide support to the Palestinians despite the abrupt decisions of Trump that has affected their ability to provide the services. They still commit to continue providing services, and we demand the re-establishment of the UNRWA and the refunding of it, because as refugees here in Palestine, we know the necessity of such an organization that provides aid to refugees all around the world. And we really hope that in the upcoming period there will be more fair decisions towards the UNRWA. UNRWA is the right of return. If they stop the UNRWA, it means we lose the right of return. They provide us with all services inside the refugee camp. Inside the refugee camp, we rely on the UNRWA. Education, streets, public hygiene, even our homes were exposed to attacks by the occupation, and they will compensate us or help us rebuild or fix the homes. And my message to the world is, please continue supporting UNRWA so that we might continue to be resilient. Thank you very much.
اليوم هذا اللي طلعنا فيه احنا يعني نايمين، ولا هم بيحكوا انه اليهود هيهم فاتوا على حيفا وفاتوا علينا ووصلونا، فصرنا نشرد يعني من مكان لمكان. كان عمري 5 سنين، فطلعنا ومشينا مشي طويل، وسكننا بخربوش. بس بعديها لهم بيحكوا انه هيهم عملوا مخيمات، فاحنا طلعنا من هناك ورحنا على مخيم جنزور. كانت شتاء وبرد وخيم، والخيم كانت تنزل على رؤوس الناس. يعني والله هسه اللي احنا بنعاني فيه لسه اصعب. زي اليوم لما بفوتوا بنخاف وبنطلع من البيوت. بال67 احنا كنا في البيوت يعني بالنهار يعني، وحتى احنا يعني عندنا باب الدار اجتنا قذيفه. فبهاي الحاله حملنا حنا وطلعنا وهربنا. ثاني يوم اللي هم بيقولوا خلاص سقطت البلاد وارفعوا الرايات وروحوا. هاي الانتفاضة هي كانت لها تأثير كثير على الناس، يعني كان يروح شباب كثير فيها، وبخاف عليهم من فاتوا على البيت. أنا فاتوا على بيتي أكثر من مرة، فأجوا هدموا البيت وأنا نص بيتي راح. بس هذا اليوم اللي أصعب، اللي صعب علي، على أولادي، على الشباب. أولادي لما بروحوا على المدارس بظني هامل همهم تيروحوا على البيت. من 48 لليوم واحنا مشتتين ومتغلبين.
يعني بالانتفاضة الأولى كان عمري تقريبا 18 سنة. المدارس سكرت نهائي، طبعا فيش مدارس، انحشرنا في البيوت، ممنوع نهائي أي إنسان يخرج باب بيته. الانتفاضة الثانية أنا كنت متزوجة، فيعني كان خوف ورعب. أولادي كانوا صغار، يعني كانوا يتصروعوا ويخافوا ونحتضنهم، أو بتعدي وبتروح شغلة بسيطة، ممكن وهم في المدرسة يصير قصف، ممكن يجتاحوا، ممكن يعني إحنا دائما في حالة توتر، حالة انتظار، تفكير، خوف. يعني بنتمنى إنه الدول توقف معنا وخلص ينهوا الحرب على غزة وعلى الضفة اللي قاعدة كل مالها بتزيد. يعني الضفة ما كانت بهاي الصورة. الفلسطينيات قويات طول عمرهن وجبارات وقد حالهن، مرن في ظروف صعبة وكل مالهن بمرن بظروف، وهن إن شاء الله قد هذا الإشي.
وكمان مرة جيت عند دار سيدة واقتحموا الجيش وظلوا 3 أيام، وعشنا بتوتر وخوف. وكمان ضربوا إنرجا بحد الدار بتاع دار سيدي هون، وضربوا عليها إنرجا وخفنا يعني. كنت أحزن لما أشوف الناس تطلع من دورهم سواء في مخيمنا أو في مخيم جنين أو في مخيم طول كرم أو في مخيم بلاطة. يعني الأصل إحنا لما نكون في المدرسة نحكي عن الدراسة وهيك أشياء، بس للأسف يعني إحنا نحكي عن الاقتحامات وعن وجود الاحتلال في الدور، مثلا لما يفوتوا على دورهم وهيك. يعني طبعا بخاف على المستقبل، يعني بخاف ما أكمل حلمي أو دراستي. يعني طبعا أنا حلمي إني أكون محامية مشان أدافع عن وطني وأرضي، بس بخاف إنه ما يتحقق هذا الحلم بسبب وجود الاحتلال. بحكي للعالم يعني انتوا شايفين اللي بيصير في غزة وبيصير في المخيمات وبيصير في الضفة وما بتعملوا شيء. يعني
بحب ارجع على الكفرين وارجع على حيفا. انا اهلي كلهم بحيفا.
ان شاء الله انها بتوقف الحرب ان شاء الله يا رب.
اسمي ثريا عبد الهادي الغراني، عمري 85 سنة. الله أعطاني 3 بنات، الأولاد موتوا والبنات ضلوا. طب إحنا اتخذونا قالوا شردوا الحين يصير فيكم زي دار ياسين. دار ياسين خشوا اليهود على ذبحوهم كلهم. مسكنا هالأغراض وشردنا وسحبنا حالنا، جينا هان دور نشرد في البلح، دور نشرد على البحر، دور نشرد هانا وهانا نقلوا فينا. قال ما دام بده يصير فينا دار ياسين، اجاب ابوي هالسياره وركبنا فيها وحطنا في خان يونس عند النجاجره وظلينا. فهينا عشت 3 حروب ما شفتش ولا دار انتسفت ولا مركز، خاصه ايش نسفوا المركز. شردنا انحصرنا في المدرسه يا ستي. يجي شاب زي اخوي هذا 6 عيال في صف، يجي الشاب يقول طمكوا وشاهدوا حالكم. اطلاق يخشن من الشبابيك هذول علينا ويخشن من هان علينا. الدبابه تضرب والطياره تضرب والصواريخ يضربن.
لما صارت الحرب ضربوا لقدام منا أحزمة نارية. فأنا كنت تحت بالحاصل عند أبوي، سمعت الضرب وهذا خفت وصرت أجري. أبوي صار يقول لي تخافيش، أقول له لا خلاص. طلعت فوق وكان عندنا طبعا أهلي وكانوا عندنا ناس نازحين اللي هم خالاتي وأولادهم كانوا من غزة وجايين عندنا. فشردنا كنا وين بالهلال، شردنا تقريبا قعدنا 3 شهور بالهلال. فكنا اوقات نروح يعني نيجي الصبحيتين على البيت شوي مثلا نغير نشوف امورنا كذا زي هيك، نظبط امورنا 2 زمن ونرجع. فجأة صحينا الصبح لقينا دبابات على الباب ويلا معك انك تطلع من الهلال. طبعا ايش ما بدك تشيل، يعني بدك تاخذ حاجه معك بسيطه تقدر انت تشيلها. يعني كثير سبنا اغراض، كثير الناس سابت اغراضهم يعني وحاجاتهم يعني، وكثير يعني منظر بنساهوش نهائيا انك تطلع من الهلال. طبعا انا يعني من 28 سنه عمري ما شفت ولا دبابه. بتذكر في 27/10 قصفوا دار جيراننا. كانت صاحبتي والده، طبعا صاحبتي وابنها راحوا.
غيرتنا الحرب كتير، قدمتنا 10 سنين لقدام من شغل وتعب وفش دراسة واهتمام بالأطفال بإخوتي الصغار بعيلتي كلها. يعني وقتي كان كله مليان. كنت أصحى من الصبح أرتب البيت مع ماما أساعدها، بطلع المدرسة بعد هيك. بعد ما أروح من المدرسة بدرس بكمل دراستي، بس أخلص بتراسل مع صاحباتي، بطلع على المسجد بحفظ قرآن. وصلت للجزء التاسع وهلقيت مع الحرب بطلت طبعا. يعني أنا فيش وقت إنه أهتم أكمل. يعني حلمي اليوم إني أطلع من هاي الحرب سالمة، يكون كل عائلتي معي، يكون بيتنا يعني كويس مع إنه تدمر، بس الحمد لله بنحكي. قصف تهجير وظلام، ظلم وتعذيب السجان. سأنادي كل الأحرار وأسأل من يستطيع أن بل
الحضور الكريم السيدات والسادة السلام
Dear
عليكم ورحمة
audience,
الله
ladies
وبركاته.
and gentlemen,
نرحب
peace
بكم
be
اليوم في
with
هذه
you.
المناسبة
We welcome you
العظيمة
today
يوم
on this
المرأة
great
العالمي الذي لا يحتفي
occasion,
فيه
the
فقط بإنجازات
International
النساء
Women's Day, where
بل
we don't
فيه
only
إشادة
celebrate the
لصمودهن
achievements of women,
نستلهم
rather we
منهم
stand
نستلهم من صبرهن ونستمد
in
العدل
respect
من
of their resilience,
إنقاذهن
taking
وخاصة المرأة
strength from their
الفلسطينية
struggle,
رمز
especially
التحدي
Palestinian women,
والعزة
the
التي تفقد
symbol
عبر
of
التاريخ
challenge
أروع
and
ما
pride
لمح
who
الثبات إننا هنا اليوم جميعا
have drawn
نكرم
throughout the
المرأة
history
الفلسطينية
the
التي
most
كانت وما
brilliant
زالت
monuments
صانعة الأمل
of
وبارقة
steadfastness.
الأمل
We stand here with
ورافقة
Palestinian
لموقع
women,
من
the
مواقع
makers
الانتصار
of
ثم
glory
تشجع
and
أبنائها
the
على
creators
طريق
of hope.
الحرية
We see
وزوجة
women
تشد من أزر
saying goodbye to
شريكها
their children
وأختا
on the road
تشارك في البناء
to freedom, and a wife saying
وقيادية
goodbye to
ترسم
the husband,
المستقبل رغم الألم
and a sister
وعاملة لا تعرف
participating in
الكلل
building. A
تصر
worker
على
that
العمل
knows no
وطالبة تصر على أن
tiring.
يكون القلم
A
سلاحها
student that is
والمعرفة
insisting
دربها
that her
قد
weapon
أثبتت المرأة
is
الفلسطينية خاصة بعد
a pen
الحرب القاسية التي
and the
تركت
struggle
شقاقا
is her
عميقا
path.
في
These
القلوب وفي
struggles have
الجذور
left
أنها
deep
قادرة
ones
على
in
إعادة
hearts
بناء
and at
الحياة
homes.
من تحت
However,
الركام
those women are
وإحياء
capable
الأمل
of
من
rebuilding
بين
lives from
الرماد
under the rebels and
ومن
the
بين
debris
رماد الدمار
and
هي التي
between
حملت
the
الجرح
ashes of
بصمت
destruction.
ومسحت
She
الدموع
carried
بقوة
the weapons
ونهضت لتكمل
silently,
الطريق
wiped
رغم
the
ثقل
tears
المأساة
strongly,
اليوم ننطلق من موقع
and
مؤسسة إنقاذ
continued
المستقبل
with
الشبابي
that strength.
بدورها
Today, we
الأصيل
are in
الذي
front
ظل
of
راسخا طوال
Save
فترة الحرب
the Youth
وما زال
Future
مستمرا
Association that remained
ليؤكد
strong
حرصه
throughout the
بالشراكة
war
مع
in order to
هيئة
emphasize once
الأمم
again
المتحدة
in partnership with
للمرأة
UN
وشركائها
Women
أننا
and its
نلتزم
partners
بدعم المرأة
that we are
الفلسطينية
committed
من
to
أجل
the support
تعزيز
of Palestinian
حقوقها
women in order to
وحمايتها
enhance and
وتمكينها
strengthen their rights and
لتكون
protect
شريكة
them and
رئيسية
to
في
empower
صنع
them in order
القرار
to become
وإعادة
a
الإعمار
major
وبناء
and
مستقبل
a
أكثر
key
عدالة
partner in the
وأمانا
rebuilding
لكل
towards
امرأة
a future
فلسطينية
more
صمدت وضحت
fair
وأعطت لنا
and
حلول نقول لك
just
اليوم
for all
أنت
women that have
الحكاية
given
وأنت الرسالة وأنت
endlessly. You are the
المستقبل
story,
كل
you are the
عام
message,
وأنتن
and
أمل
may
هذا
you
الوطن وعماد
always
صموده
be well and the
فلنسعد
hope
فيكم
of
جميعا
this homeland and the title
دعونا
of
ننتقل
its
الآن
resilience.
لنستقبل أو
Welcome to all of
نتحدث
you.
مع
Allow us
خمسة
now
من
to start
قصص صمود هذا الوطن العظيم
having a
سيدات
conversation
نضلن
with
وتحملن
5 ladies
وتجاوزن
and their
كل
stories of
المصاعب
great
وكل
resilience
التحديات
and overcoming
وأصبحنا أو
extreme
استمروا
challenges,
في
and
رحلة
continued
العطاء منهن من
the journey of giving,
قامت بالتمكين الاقتصادي أو قامت
some of whom
بتعزيز
have
نفسها
focused
من
on
خلال
economic
يعني
empowerment or have
صمودها
strengthened
وثباتها مرة
themselves
أخرى
through
وعدم استسلامها للاكتئاب أو للنكسات
by
النفسية
not giving in
ومنهن من
to
قامت بدعم
depression or
قطاعات
psychological
قطاعات
shocks, and they
التعليم
have
أو
supported
قطاع
other sectors such as
قطاع الدعم
education
النفسي
or
لأشخاص
psychosocial
أو فئات
support
أخرى دعونا
to
نتعرف
other
الآن على
individuals.
ستة من هذه القصص
We
العظيمة
have
نبدأ
6
أولا بزميلتنا
women
أميرة
champions here, and we will start
فيكي
with
وكل عام
Amira.
وانتم بألف خير وكل عام ونساء الأرض بألف
Welcome,
خير وكل
and
عام
I
وبالأخص
hope that all
النساء
women of all the
الفلسطينيات
world are well,
بألف
and
خير
namely the
بعدكم إحنا ما
Palestinian
اضطرينا فيهم
women after
صلوات
everything that we have went through in terms of
طبعا
hardships and
ححكي
challenges.
عن قصتي بشكل
I
سريع وأيضا
will
نركز على
share my
النقاط
story
عشان أنا
quickly, and I
أكون
want to
قدوة
focus on some
لكل
points
شخص
because I
ولكل
believe
أم
that I
بالأخص
can be
من
a role
الشرق
model for
والعراق
every mother
بداية بعرف عن
of a
نفسي
child
اسمي أميرة
with
أبو سليم
disability. My name is Amira
عمري
Abu Salim.
27
I
سنة
am 27 years old.
دارسة صحافة وإعلام من جامعة
I have
فلسطين
studied media
خريجة
at
2019
Palestine University,
طبعا
graduated back in
تخرجت بمعدل
2019,
بالنسبة
and
لي
I
روتيني
graduated
كنت أدرس
with
صحافة
a
وإعلام
good
تلفزيون
academic
وإذاعة
achievement.
وتلفزيون
I focused
معدل
on
86 كنت من الأشخاص يعني تفوقت على
the
40
section
شخص
of
و40
TV
طالب في
and radio
تخصصي
at
كنت من
the
أوائل الدفعة
media college, and I was one of the top of my class. After that, I got married.
كان الزواج على ما أذكر 11 2019.
We got married in October 1st, 2019. And similar to any other girl who got married, I sat at home. There is no career. However, God willed it that I had a daughter, and I named her Futun. She was born in January 5th, 2025, and this is where my real story started. After January 5th, 2025, I lost my sight. After giving birth to my daughter, now I only see white and black. I don't see colors, and my vision deteriorated in 7 days. And like I said in the beginning, I started seeing white and black only, and now I don't see anything outside, and I only can see at night. This is a very, very rare case. And when I was presented to different specialists, and retina, the only thing that I heard from the doctors is that it's not possible for you to see again. You should ask yourself what you did that God is punishing you like this. Now my left eye, I lost completely sight with it because of giving birth to my child, and my right eye, I see only 50-50, and it allows me to rely on myself. And this is where my story started, with losing my sight. After losing my sight, I was divorced in 2021. So this was 4 years ago. Apologies, it was not. Her daughter was born on January 5th, 2021. So going through divorce is something difficult for any girl. It was because of the disease, yes. Let's not get into details. And my daughter was taken away from me when she was 4.5 months. And this was the third hit, that was the last and the most devastating. I spent an entire family. That was a dark year for me. I was depressed. I was not talking to anyone. I was crying all the time. And the only thing that I was doing is praying to God to at least fix something that has been ruined, and to give me patience for the separation from my daughter. In the beginning, we called her Salma, and then they changed her name after divorce into Futun, like the name of his sister. And so now I am a person with disability, and I need to leave from depression. And as you all know, there's this expression, what is done is done. So now I try to start a new page in my life. If they have changed her name, so what will happen to me if I continue being depressed? So I decided to not give in, and I started working on myself, and my story of struggle and perseverance started. I started working with many organizations that run projects for persons with disabilities, and I started with the women activity or women activism. And in the beginning, I used to give workshops, despite the fact that I am almost blind. At least I was able to conduct workshops and trainings. And then I went to another project that was peer-to-peer support, and this was very useful for me. And then I started working in bakeries, working on pastries and sweets, and also I worked as a secretary in one of the hospitals in Dar al-Balah in Gaza Strip. And I was very happy about this experience because it has given me a lot of experiences and expertise. I started to know better people, and people started understanding that a person with disability is not just someone who is incapable of doing anything. Rather, it's a person who has certain difficulties and they are willing and capable of overcoming them. So I started doing different workshops with different organizations, and when I was working, I was teaching myself new skills, such as, for example, to be a nutritionist, not a nutritionist, but like a nutrition expert, not even expert, nutrition consultant, let's say, but not at the level of an expert or a specialist. And this was a very difficult transitional period. However, I was capable of overcoming that difficulty. If you have the willingness and the belief that what is coming next is better than what came before, there is a chance. My work was stopped. I see my daughter only twice a month, on the beginning and the second of the month, and I finished my work in September 2023. I saw her in October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and since October 7th started the war. Since October 3rd, I didn't see my daughter, and since October 7th, I lost my job. And this pushed me back into a state that I didn't want to relive again, the era of 2021, that there is no work and there are no opportunities to support persons with disabilities in this difficult period and circumstances. As a person with disability, I need glasses, I need the walking stick, and I need magnifiers. And when I look on my mobile, I need to make the fonts huge. And what I am suffering is the visual nerve atrophy. And if seeing small fonts makes it even worse. Losing connection was affecting me really harshly. I was asking all the time about what is happening in Khan Yunis because my daughter is there, and there was a whole year that I didn't know anything about my daughter, and that made it even more difficult for me. No, I was trying to look for sources of help and aid as much as possible, wherever it is possible, and then aside from the fact that we were displaced in the beginning of the war, and honestly, for us, it happened at night because as I said before, I see better at night. You know, my father fell in front of me, my mom fell as well, and all of these images are in my head, and they will never leave my head regardless of the psychosocial support that we receive. Imagine this is a situation for me as an adult. Can you imagine how it's going to be for a child? So it was really difficult, and these are circumstances that will never go away from our memory. It was super difficult to the point that in last Ramadan, I started suffering migraine that affected my the right side of my head, so on the side that I see with, and I need multivitamins on monthly basis in order to maintain whatever left of my visual nerve. And in the beginning, I was taking certain medications which are no longer available, and now they provide us with Amicral. They provided it for once, and then again, nobody can provide all of these medications. The multivitamin box became 1,000 shekels in price, and I am a person with disability who's not working, and this is a burden for my entire family. Now there is no meat, no vegetables, no fruits, no healthy food. and I need to take the multivitamins with healthy food, and there is no healthy food either. So all of these circumstances has adversely affected me and my nerves. I cannot bear any bad news, and they have to tell it to me very quickly in order for me to be able to absorb it. And despite all of that, despite all of the suffering, I remained on my both feet. And now where I stand is not something that came to me easily. I really had worked extensively and hardly until I got to where I am at the moment. The fact that I don't have a job opportunity at the moment is difficult. And I have an Instagram page where I try to convey that any mother with a disability is capable of standing on her both feet, long and strong. And I have met many women who have suffered as much as I did, women who have been divorced, women who had disabilities, women who had children and were not able to see them. So this peer-to-peer support was great. I publish videos, and the views reached about 10,000 to these videos. So I just want to make sure that any woman with disability, any mother with disability would know that they are capable of so my message is that disability is not an obstacle. It's actually a good incentive, and it might open really good doors for you that you were not able to reach before. I was seeking during the war, and nobody answered this call. I wanted my case to be presented to doctors, but my case was presented to 9 doctors, 7 of whom are in Gaza and 2 who are from Gaza but living abroad. And I really would like if anybody can answer my call and send me to someone who's really specialized in eye retina, and maybe there is hope for me after all. And if not, eventually I believe in the destiny that God has drawn for me. Secondly, I would like, as a person with visual impairment, to be integrated into the society surrounding me. And don't forget that I don't see, I'm not completely blind. I have a partial impairment, and I would like to really engage in work, to have my own projects. And like I said before, I can give workshops and trainings to persons with disabilities. I can make pastries that I can make with all the love. I studied media, as I said before, and I tried to do some voiceovers during the war, especially that I like to have stuff for children. So thank you for hosting me here and for giving me the space to be heard. Thank you very much, Amira, and we are very happy that you are with us today here in person, and we are happy that you are conveying this experience, and I'm sure that your voice will reach to people who will learn from your example. Rawia, can you please tell us more about your experience, how you overcame the difficult circumstances, and what were you able to do? I am a social worker. I will tell you about before and after the war, the transition point. Before the war, I was working as a social worker. I have worked in different places with different organizations. I had an accessories and embroidery project, and also I was part of the board of the directors of a disability organization, and also the women horse riders. Also, I am a table tennis player and a basketball player. This was all before the war, and also I was activist on TikTok, and I was trying to inspire some people in the fact that because I have a partial amputation in my right hand, which is my dominant hand and the hand that I work with, and how I managed to overcome my disability, and I managed to hold a needle and a thread and to do embroideries, and I was receiving support as such, and I was trying to. I had some followers who asked me to do their names with embroideries and to send them a picture, and they would pay me, and they called me the woman with golden fingers. This was before the war. Now, after the war, I still me. I was one of the people who were displaced, and of course we didn't think that this would take this long. And we tried to start a project to have any income. Since my disability is in my hand, I wasn't able to make any dough or to do the pastries or the baking. My husband was doing the dough, and I would bake, and we started selling to the people. There was a period that the bakeries opened again, so the demand became less, and immediately I switched a little bit. I know how to make falafel, so I thought that let's move from pastries to falafel, or to mix them together, and they can eat it fresh and hot. So we first started with 2 kilos of chickpeas, just to check and see and how it would be, and it was actually rewarding for me as a start. And every now and then I would increase the quantity to the point that now I have customers and organizations that come and buy sandwiches to the refugee camps or to the shelters for breakfast or for dinner. My project was generating income for 4 households. I was taking care of the falafel. My husband was taking care of the dough. I had a young man who was making the sandwiches, and we had 2 other women who were doing the baking. I had previous experience from before. My uncle had a shop for selling falafel, and I used to work with him and help him. And thank God I continued working with this, with the falafel and the pastries. With the pastries, sometimes it's difficult because they are more expensive, less expensive with the flour. But at the moment, I continue to work. I still live in a tent, so it's difficult to do the falafel and the bakery, the pastry together. But this is in a nutshell of what happened. And unfortunately, I was exposed to bullying, and in Dar al-Balah the community is very patriarchal, so as a woman who's standing behind a falafel fryer, this was difficult for them. So everybody was looking at me with these disapproving eyes. How could a woman stand behind a falafel fryer? And I managed to change that view and to prove to them that a woman is capable of doing a work that you as men are not used to, and that women can take the lead, where she competes against men. During the war, did you look for any opportunities for trainings or workshops? Yes, and honestly, I received a training with you actually at the future, the Youth Future Association, or We received also training from the agricultural cooperative committees with Oxfam and another project with the EU. I signed a project, but they still need to secure the materials for me. I really hope that we can find any individuals who can support me with anything to bring me flour or chickpeas.
وكنت قادرة أوفر إيش بيطلب مني من إمكانيات وفلافل وفراشة.
So that I can be able to provide people with food, either in the form of sandwiches or in the form of the falafel. Let me go back to the bullying. I faced a lot of bullying. How did you deal with it? Because I have experience with persons with disabilities. I managed for in any of the cases when people start to try to bully me to explain what disability is and what is it about and how I can carry or hold things with the two fingers. And after I finish talking, many times you would see that they feel shy or they feel ashamed and they would apologize to me, and I would say, no, don't apologize to me, but I really hope from you the next time you see a person with disability not to say any of the bad things that you said before. If you have something nice and supportive to say, please go ahead. If not, then keep your words for yourself. On the other hand, I found many other people in comparison to even more than the bulliers who have encouraged me and wanted to support me, and they were saying that they would bring me other women to show them an example of how women are capable of standing fast and for holding themselves and their communities and their families. This was supportive for me on a moral level, on top of being a good financial and economic support. However, I need to say that the support was very minimal in general, but this is the transition that I went through and how the war affected me. Thank you very much, and I really hope that you will continue to be strong and continue to be able to give as always. Now we will go to the third example, which is a young woman, and we would like to hear from you, your experience, and what is the pivotal point in your life and how you were able to give to this community despite the challenges and hardships and obstacles. Hello, I am 26 years old.
طبعا كأي شابة تحتفظ يعني طموحها وتحاول انها تبني مستقبلها بعد التخرج، كان عندي محاولات كثيرة اني اكبر في حياتي المهنية، لكن
I tried to during the war, before the war, and after the war, high unemployment rates, and I was trying a lot, at least in the golden period, which was a few months before the war. I tried to look for temporary internships, training courses, and workshops. I was very active that I felt I can start, but after the war started, all of the places where I received trainings or worked or did internships were destroyed completely. Myself and my entire family were displaced for an entire month, and I am a house person, and so it was very difficult for me to leave my house and to go to the unknown. My home might be destroyed completely and I might not be able to return to my home. And it was one of the most difficult circumstances that we went through. Our neighbor's home was destroyed by 2 rockets, and with the magnitude of the explosion, people thought that it was our home that was destroyed. destroyed. So these were very difficult circumstances with the beginning of the war until many months that passed. I was not thinking I wasn't able to think of anything. We were completely disconnected from the world, from the internet. But eventually, after passing through several months with the same circumstances, you start thinking that you need to do something about it. You cannot just continue being unable to do anything. And one day I suggested to the children of my family to teach them. I said it just as something, and I was not really very serious about it. However, the children took it even more seriously than me, and for 2 or 3 days they were asking me, really, are you going to start teaching us? When are you going to do it? And I started because of them. And as soon as I saw their excitement, I started with one home inside of the house. Their excitement was not something that you can contain. They were happy and excited about the colors and the words and everything related to education, and it represents them as children. And then I started publishing on my page that I am teaching. If there are anybody and if there are any other children who would like to come and receive education. So I went to a tent in the shade of my home, and I started teaching there. And this tent has a story. It sheltered a family of 15 members, and with the bombardment that happened of our neighbor's home, this tent was damaged and had many cracks. And then the family decided to move to a better place, and I decided to utilize this space to make it a classroom, despite the damage to it. So first I started with decorating it, printing out colored papers, and used the drawings of the children when I asked them to draw, and I decorated the classroom with their own personal touch in order to encourage them further. This is what distinguished my classroom in the beginning, that it is decorated. I wanted the children to see colors and paintings in comparison to the white, black, and the shades of gray that have overcome the scene. I wanted to teach them writing, but they would get exhausted from writing. So I thought that I needed to give them materials, and I decided to make textbooks that I made myself, relying on drawings, paintings, some this was the beginning, and these manuals or these textbooks that I made found a lot of acceptance, and I had some people who were even asking me to prepare these folders and to start selling them. And then I moved to relying on those manuals, let's say, and also to add some activities. And I decided to add something which I tried myself prior to the war, and it had a really huge impact on me psychologically. That sometimes you forget yourself and you disconnect. And my purpose was for those girls to disconnect from the reality surrounding them. So I decided to add journal sessions where we do a visual documentation using stickers, posters, and colors, and even words. So I added this activity to the activity that I have in the classroom as a fixed, consolidated activity, and it made a major stride and change even for the girls, because they liked it. With the stickers, with the colors, with the words, they expressed themselves using this medium. Of course, the resources needed for the journal are not available in Gaza, and I tried to look for the simplest alternatives, and I took papers where I printed the stickers and we cut the stickers and we gather them in boxes, and then we bring glue and we stick them. Of course, this is not how it should be as an activity, but we found alternatives and the girls liked it. And then I started inviting people who I knew to attend the journal sessions and to bring with them anyone they think would like this activity. This has received a lot of acceptance among the community, and one of the women who came said that I feel that this is a club more than a class, and this stuck in my head. Why don't we make it as a club for girls? And I received support from Saving the Youth's Future Association, and I tried to expand the concept of this classroom to become a club for girls that includes education, handiwork, and everything that the girls would like to try or attempt. And I focused on the adolescents, because this is a very sensitive period and they go through a lot of changes anyways, physical, psychological, and I see myself in them because I have witnessed all of the wars of Gaza myself. When I was their age, I witnessed wars, and after the war, they would tell us, you can go back to the schools and you can return to your life normally. This is something we got used to in Gaza, even at the university, the same. For them, the difference is that they don't even have a school to return to, and there's nothing for them to do. So I wanted to give them the chance to experience everything they wanted to experience, and they were denied. And to give them something to vent out through, we tried to do bracelets of different sorts. So I started in Dar al-Balah from my family home, and I continue until now from my family home as well. But at the moment, we have it as a club for girls, and I called the initiative The Voices of Tomorrow. I just wanted to give them the opportunity to do everything they would like, with the hope that they will become our voice in the future, and they will get that trust and faith, and I will continue, may God will it, for those girls that I am working with, and with the hope to reach to the highest levels.
اشتقنا للمدرسة واشتقنا للنشيد الوطني وللمعلمين وللدراسة وللقلم وللدفاتر. إن شاء الله تخلص الحرب ونرجع زي أول في المدرسة. إن شاء الله يا رب ترجع أيام زمان نصحى بدري ونروح المدرسة. إن شاء الله تخلص الحرب. بدينا العام الدراسي في الخيام، كنا نحب المدرسة ويا ريت ترجع المدرسة، واشتقنا للمعلمات ومعلمينا، اشتقنا لصحباتنا نعرفش عنهم اشي. ان شاء الله بتخلص الحرب ونرجع ندرس، اشتقنا نمسك القلم ونكتب.
كمية الإصابات وكمية الشهداء وعلى المدارس بس التلوين بقدرش أروح فيها من
كنت نايمة أنا في غرفتي، ما لقينا غير الشباك نازل علينا.
صرنا نخاف نطلع باب الدار لوحدنا أو ننام لحالنا في أوضة.
فقع قنبلة وأثرت كتير على نفسيتي، وصرت أنام وأنا مش حاسة بأمان.
اشتقنا حقيبة، اشتقنا للإذاعة المدرسية، اشتقنا للمعلمات، اشتقنا للصف بالطابور، اشتقنا للطالبات، لصحباتنا. وهذه الحقيبة كانت الكتب، صارت الأواعي.
يعني من ملهمات من مدينة جنين، مدينة الصمود، نسمع منهم أكثر كيف ممكن يتغلبوا خلال الفترة الماضية من عمليات الاجتياح وعمليات
Jenin, the resilience and how they overcame the challenges that happened in Jenin and the incursions by the Israeli occupation. Let's hear some of the stories from Jenin city. Hello, ladies. Can you hear me? Let's start with how you managed to overcome these challenges and how you were able to inspire other people around you and how you were able to continue the giving despite the difficulties you lived recently. First of all, I would like to thank you for this gathering and that you brought us together in the same screen in order to highlight an important group in the society, which is the women, especially Palestinian women, in the areas of displacement, in the areas of war, and how they managed to overcome this suffering and how they managed to be an example of women who are capable of development, improvement, and making generations. I am Hepa Hwedi from the Jenin refugee camp. I am 32 years old. I am a mother of 4 children. And if we should stand on the suffering, I lived the incursion of 2002. I lost my father, and I was the oldest of my 7 siblings. I lived through the incursion of the refugee camp, through all of this, its details, and the memory still is stuck in my head. I got married when I was 18 years old, and thank God I was blessed with 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. But when you go to marriage and the marriage life, it is a major change, but it never stood as an obstacle to my education. I finished my education for years at the university, and then I started working at a private school because as a graduate, I needed to employ the knowledge that I've learned and start my career. So after working in a private school, you probably are aware of the suffering of finding a job in Palestine due to the complicated procedures. I applied to the Ministry of Education for 6 years in a row, and I was employed this year despite the displacement, and they called me in September to tell me that I was employed, and this was not a barrier despite the displacement, and I decided to actually finish my master's degree and to continue my education, because education for me is extremely important, and for us as people from the refugee camp, we like to maintain our educational level, and there are many examples of women from the refugee camp who like to continue their work and to learn and to focus on education. I finished my master's degree from the Arab American University of Jenin, and the title of my dissertation was how to receive the displaced people with a good smiley face. And we want to convey this message that despite displacement, our lives is not going to stop, and we want for our children to continue their education despite the difficult accessibility to schools these days, and we can do as much as possible to provide them with the basic needs that any child would need for education. So imagine our children, they have lost their homes, their toys, their bags. They left their homes with no bag, with no books, with no clothing. If it was anyone else, aside from the people of the refugee camp, aside from the people in Jenin, their lives might have been put on hold. and would eat and drink and that's it. No, for us, we continue our lives, we keep learning, and we focus on our education despite the very few and minimal resources available to us. As a mother, as a teacher, as a mother of 4 children, we need to highlight the education sector, especially for children, to provide needs in the form of clothing, food, beverages, and psychosocial support, which is extremely important for our children. These circumstances have reflected or left its shadow on the children. The moment the children see the Israeli army jeeps gathering, it was a terrifying experience for them. I'm not talking only about my own children. We're talking about the children of all other women. We are very fertile people, and we have a lot of children, and our children have good mental capabilities and abilities. So for us as displaced people, we don't stop at receiving a meal to eat in order to just survive. Rather, we will not allow our lives to be put on hold because of displacement. We will continue with even if it will be with the bare minimum of the needs and bare minimum of achievements, but we will continue to achieve. We will continue to do. My house was damaged. My parents' house was damaged. My family-in-law house was damaged, but I will go back and return to that refugee camp stronger than I was even before. Currently, from the place of displacement, I work on improving myself and improving my children in order to make sure that they will be active people in the society.
طاوي من مخيم جنين، ناشطة اجتماعية في جمعية كي لا ننسى. حاب اليوم أحكي شوي عن ظروف النازحين.
An activist from Jenin refugee camp from Kay La Nansa, in order not to forget association, and I would like to share with you a bit about the suffering that we are having at the moment. I am a mother of 2 or 3 children, and currently I am pregnant, and in the beginning of this current incursion, we were displaced to different locations, and we didn't have a certain shelter to go to that is secure and safe. I have been displaced to 3 different locations. At the beginning, I went to a village, then we went to the residence of the Arab American University, and up to the moment, I was there until recently. We moved to rent a house in a village called Silat Al Harthiyya. Currently, we are suffering extremely difficult circumstances. Me and all other displaced people. Currently, there are 17,000 displaced persons from the Jenin refugee camp, including children, women, men, and elderlies. Most of us have lost their homes. Currently, I've lost my home. Actually, my home was burned completely, and then it was exploded. And currently, I'm thinking of my current situation where I don't have a shelter, and if we return to the refugee camp, may God will it to be soon, I will not even have a home to go back to. So there is no safety or security for my children. With regards to the current situation that we suffer, our children are suffering shortage in many of the basic needs that should be the bare minimum for any child. They lost their clothing, their education was interrupted, they lost their books and their bags, so they have missed the first semester of the academic year, and there is 80% of the children who are out of schools now. My children were among the top of the class, but now we don't have enough books. I tried to include them in the school of where we live right now, but the books are not available and the basic needs are not available, and also because of lack of security and safety and stability, it's not possible for them to just sit and learn in a normal way. Also, they need some basics as children, all of which are not available because as displaced people we have lost our livelihoods, our are income generating opportunities, and more than 2 years the entirety of the refugee camp was suffering. My husband is a labor worker, and he lost his work 2 years ago. Also, I was giving private classes, and I was doing cupping therapy and physiotherapy and some other stuff. But currently I have no place where I can do any of the work, and children have needs, and I, as a pregnant woman, I have also needs and requirements. I need a comfortable place to live in, all of which are not available. My infant who is breastfeeding has many needs, and that we cannot provide, and there are many families that have the same needs and they cannot provide for it. They need formula, milk, diapers, all of which are not available. Job opportunities are scarce, and therefore we really hope for these circumstances to become better, and for anyone to help us, even if it was for job opportunities with the bare minimum that will allow us to provide for our families with dignity. We are in Ramadan and we cannot provide food on our table as it should be. We need food, we need healthy food, we need safety, and there is no one to embrace us or to hold us as properly as needed, and there are many capabilities that are not available, and if you want to make it available, you need an income which is not available itself. So this is the suffering that we are facing at the moment. We have many elderlies as well who are suffering because of chronic diseases which require medications that are not available.
انه نسمع عن نساء جنين وعن نساء المدن الفلسطينيه. يعني انا بتشكرك جدا لهي المشاركه.
I really thank you for sharing with us
يعني تشاركينا بتجربتك وبكلامك الطيب هذا.
your experience and
اذا بنقدر نحكي عن
your kind words.
اللي انت فعليا
So if we're talking about that transition point where you became an inspiring person to the people around surrounding you, or at least to your family, what was the turning point?
طبعا أنا يعني بحاول دائما نسترق لحظات السعادة.
We try to steal moments of happiness and joy from the heart of suffering. Currently, I am in a compound that is taking 8 households. We are trying to live a life that is closest to normal as possible, and of course it's not normal, but we try to steal moments of joy, even if it was by a cup of coffee or by gathering as women together. I try to help my children to get out of the reality that we live by including them in the surrounding schools. I try to keep them busy with home-based toys, with paper and a pen or a pencil to help them paint, and we don't give up or in for the reality that we live in. Many children are suffering currently from issues, the obsessions, the compulsions, because now they are in a time and an age where their brains are just imaginative and they can dive into that imagination. However, you hear them saying that we want to leave this country because it's dangerous, but rather we try to consolidate the concept of this homeland into their hearts, into their minds, in order for them not to lose that connection. We need to keep this connection of nationalism, of patriotism, and to consolidate the homeland in our hearts as much as we are consolidated in our homelands. I really hope that you will continue to be able to give in this way, and as such, we would like a girl here to share, to talk with another inspiring person from there, and we will take our colleague Jihan to speak to one of the ladies there. Hello. Blessed be your efforts. Peace be with you. May you always be well. May you always be well 1,000 times. I am from Khan Yunis. I'm 28 years old. I'm a social worker. Can you introduce yourself? Essence Muhammad Mustafa Abu Salim. We are known in Jenin refugee camp as Norse. If you would like to start, please go ahead. Do you want me to tell you about myself? I was displaced with the rest of people. I am a mother of 3 daughters. I have a daughter who's 7 months old, another in the 1st grade, and the third is in the 6th grade. When I was displaced, my husband was imprisoned. You cannot imagine that moment of displacement and the difficulty of it. You don't know if you will survive or not. The bombardment was happening, and the situation was hysterical. And of course, in that moment, you don't know how to deal with the children, what to express to them. Do I show them that I am scared and afraid or not? We thought that the displacement will happen a day or two, like we experienced in the past. However, this time, so far, it's been 40 plus days, and up to the moment we don't even know what our future is going to look like, and our circumstances financially and economically are extremely difficult, and it's only God that helps us through. And our situation now is even harder. Now we are in a place we cannot, we don't have enough money to rent or to provide the basic daily needs. We are suffering quite a lot. And of course, with this misery, there are some phenomena that we longed for God and didn't have to go through. But if this continues for us as displaced persons, as a mother, if I need diapers and formula for my daughter, I don't know how to secure that. For me, as Sundus, I studied 4 years at the university, and here in Palestine, we lack job opportunities, and I was attempting to find a job opportunity for myself. However, the opportunities that are available are always prioritized to someone else, maybe a daughter of a person who's imprisoned or a daughter of a martyr. I didn't study in order to remain at home. We were following you on the TV, and in the first moment that I was displaced, I was really hoping for Gaza's return to their homes. However, the moment of Gazan people's return was the moment of our displacement, unfortunately. So the time when you were displaced in Gaza, I was always depressed, and I was crying all the time. And when I learned that you have returned back to your homes, I was very happy for you. But can you describe it to us when you were returned back to your homes, how it was? We hope that you also will return to your homes. Thank God we did return to our homes. But to be honest with you, we returned to empty houses. I lost my mother, my brother, and my grandmother. We try to continue with life and to keep surviving despite the losses that we have incurred for over a year now. I tried to stand on my feet again. We are 4 girls and 2 boys. One was martyred, and there is one remaining. Now I am the mother of my siblings. During the war, one of my sisters got married, and she's pregnant, and hopefully she will give birth soon. My father still lives with us in the house. I found him a wife in July, and we are all living in the same house. And I am trying as much as possible to find another job opportunity and to go back working as a social worker, similar to how I was before, and to be an organizer and and an energizer, actually. But you know that you need to bear the pain, and you need to be patient. Despite all of the losses of the homes and the individuals of the homes, we still try to continue being patient and to actually help other individuals in the household to remain patient. I am the eldest daughter of my mother. May God have mercy over her soul, and I am the support for everyone. I try to compensate them for the loss of their mother and my mother. And I hope to be up for the challenge and the responsibility that my mother left me with. I really hope that God will bestow you and us with the patience until the return to our homes. Can we have another woman? Good afternoon, everyone. Ruwaida Hwel. I am a displaced woman from Jenin refugee camp. We are now guests to the governorate of Jenin, and hopefully we will go back to our homes and our refugee camp. And despite the difficult circumstances faced by Jenin city and governorate and the refugee camp, today is the International Women's Day, and I say to all of the women of Gaza and all of the women of Palestine, may you always be well. May you always be the strong, resilient women who are strong and standing. I don't hear any women who say we lost and we are weak now. No, this gathering today is just a proof that these young women are strong, they are hopeful, are inspiring, and we need to always believe that God sends us what we can bear, and that we will exit on the other side strong, proud, and with our dignity. However, we live difficult circumstances now. Palestinian women are suffering lack of health services, aside from lack of medications, issues with water pollution, malnutrition, difficulty of accessibility and mobility to locations of work. And we were always following up on the situation of Gaza, and honestly, we have taken our strength at the Jenin refugee camp from you, the people of Gaza. We saw you through the winter, we saw you through your sufferings, we saw you through the lack of needs and the accumulated needs, and we were always saying, may God be with you in these difficulties. But thank God we saw that you have held your grounds with patience and pride, and now we are suffering similar to what people have suffered in Gaza. Now the homes are not livable anymore. The entirety of the infrastructure was destroyed. The roads were plowed. And thank God we have some people and many homes in Jenin that have received us. And I believe that a Palestinian woman is always strong wherever they are. I would like to ask the women of Gaza and the girls of Gaza, honestly, you were in the tents. The life in the tents was difficult. So you talk about yourself, your mother is a martyr, your brother is a martyr. How did you manage throughout this period? If we have to go through another winter while we are still displaced, what did you do? How did you deal?
Okay.
First of all, peace be with you. My name is Maryam Sirsawi. I would like to introduce myself quickly. I am one of the Al-Fakhura scholarship student that is funded by Education for All, and it was to consolidate my skills as a woman. I am a displaced person. I lost my home completely. I work as a translator and a content writer, and I have been classified as one of the best translators and content developers, but as I was disrupted from the internet connection and work for a while, I lost my job. We went to an UNRWA shelter, which was supposed to be a safety place. However, we lost my brother who martyred at the time, and we really hope that there will be, we try to make sure to save the hope. I never allowed the tent to limit what I wanted to do. I made a class for the high school students as an education point with 87 students, and it was funded by Save Youth Future Society. And also we did a pioneer or an entrepreneurial tent for women that is based on networking. The women who are leading their households, I felt compassion, and I wanted to hold the hand of women who were working throughout the war. And we had women in the shelters who were displaced without their husbands, and the idea of this initiative based on networking between women who are leading their households and the organizations or the activities that are providing food parcels to people. So we allowed the women to produce these parcels and to sell it. So it became as an income generating for them. In terms of the life in tents, honestly, it is difficult and extremely harsh. However, a person with belief and willingness would bear and would persevere, and nothing would seem impossible in their eyes. And this is why I would like to send a message to women of Jenin and the other governorates. We are extremely proud of you. We are extremely proud of your resilience. We are extremely proud of your perseverance. It's true that we are at the heart of the suffering, but it does not sway us from following up on your news or knowing your circumstances. And really, we hope to be with you, and for this meeting now to be a sort of solidarity, complementarity, that a proof to ourselves and to the entire world that we are one as Palestinian women. We are capable wherever we are in Palestine, and from the uterus of suffering we will be born as entrepreneurial women, active women, capable women, productive women. And I know that each woman of you that came here today is a monument of strength and motivation. Thank you very much. Allow us now to move to the last story from Gaza Strip with our colleague Hanin Al-Khudari to hear more about her experience in overcoming these hardships and challenges, and how she managed to be a provider of different services in light of extreme difficult circumstances, in light of this ferocious war and attack against the Palestinian people in Gaza, against the threat of losing life while providing different services, whether it was in education or services or even in the relief efforts that were provided to many groups, whether they were women or children. Hanin, please go ahead. Peace be with you. Today I am with you, Hanin Al-Khudari. I am 24 years old. I study sociology and psychology. Today I speak to you as Hanin that lost the spring of her youth, similar to many other girls like myself. Today, I share with you my story. The only survivor from her entire family. My life was full of roses. With my family, with my ambitions, and I had dreams. My life prior to October 7th was full of voluntary work. I used to do marionette toys, and I was doing my first toy theater for the first time 1 week before the war, and it was my first and last attempt for
كان
such work.
دوري كتير كان مهم في المسرحية. كانت
My role was
المسرحية عبارة عن
important in that play, which was
كان دوري في المسرحية عبارة عن أم فقدت أبنائها،
my
فكانت
role
هي في النهاية أنا كنت بصرخ بنادي عن
was
أولادي
a mother who
إنه
lost her
مين بقول
children,
لي.
and in the
طب
beginning I was
لو
yelling,
وقعت مين
calling their
يسندني؟
names,
لو عييت
and I
مين
was
هاخد
saying,
الدواء؟
if I fall, who would
طب
support
مين
me?
يقرأ علي الفاتحة؟ هو أنا أقرأ عليكم
If
الفاتحة
I'm
ولا تقرأوا علي
ill,
الفاتحة؟
who will get me
وقتها صرت
medicine?
إنه أعيط ببكى، ما كنتش بعرف إن أنا كنت بحكي
And
حياتي
I
اللي
started
حتصير
crying
في المستقبل. وقتها
because I
اكتشفت
didn't
إن أنا
know
قديش حدا
at the
كتير
time
قوي وكتير قديش إني
I was sharing
قدرت إني أسيطر على كل
my
الموجودين
future
وأخليهم
story.
يعيطوا على عياطي. إجت الحرب 18/10 كان أول استهداف للبيت الملاصق لبيتنا، استشهد فيه ابن أخويا الله يرحمه نور. فكانت بداية الوجع والقهر، ما كناش بنعرف إنه بداية لمشوار طويل. كانت
Apologies.
البداية إنه
We lost
فقدنا ابن
my
أخويا،
nephew.
بعدها كلنا
That was
إصابات.
the
أنا
first
كانت إصابتي كتير
experience. Then we
خطيرة.
had injuries. My injury was
الحمد
very
لله
serious
كانت
in the beginning, but thank
كانت الأمور
God,
كتير صعبة. أغلب البيت كله
despite the
إصابات.
difficult
عدت
circumstances,
الأيام والحمد لله
we
وقدرنا
managed
نحمل
to get through
حالنا.
the times.
كنا من مكان لمكان لحد ما وصلنا
My family
لنزوح
was
13.
all injured people,
نزوح
and we
13
were
كان
displaced
في آخر
from one
محطة
place to another
هو
until the 13th.
كانت دار سيدي
And the last
أم
was
أمي.
my grandparents from
فاعتقادنا
my
إنه هذا
mother's side,
البيت وهي
and
المحط
we
الأكثر
thought
أمان
that was
إنه
the
حيكون
safest
خلص يعني
station for
وصلنا
all of
لهيك
us,
يعني خلص
and that now
إحنا
we have reached
خلص بمنطقة الأمان.
to the seashore, the shore of safety and
على
security.
اعتقادنا إنه منطقة الأمان.
This is what we thought.
في يوم 3/12/2023
On December 3rd,
الساعة 6
2023,
الصبح تم
6
استهداف البيت
a.m.,
بشكل مباشر
the house
قدام
was
ناي.
targeted directly with a
ما بعرف شو صار،
belt of
بس
fire.
إني
I
أنا
don't
كنت
know what
ما
happened,
بين فقد الوعي ومش فقد الوعي،
but
يعني
I
كنت
was
عندي شوية
between
صحصحة. تم انتقالي
unconscious and conscious. I was
بين
moved
أشلاء أهلي
from between the scattered
لحد المستشفى.
parts of my family members to the hospital.
وأنا بالمستشفى تم تضميد جروحي في الممرات. بنفس اللحظة تم استهداف المستشفى.
When I was in the hospital, I
دخلت
received
14
help
يوم بغيبوبة.
in the corridors,
بعد
and then
14
I
يوم كان كل يوم يجيني
was in a
إجا
coma
وزير
for
صيدلي
14 days.
كان
After the 14
متطوع إنه
days,
هو حيداوي كل
there was a
الجرحى
volunteer
من الحرب.
pharmacist
فكان
who was
يجي
trying to heal
ويداويني وكل يوم
all
يقطع
the
الشظاي من ظهري. كانت إصابتي
injured people
كتير شرسة.
from
كانت
the war.
جروح في
My
الرأس
injury
بالوجه،
was really,
حروق في
really
الكتف،
hard,
ظهري
and I
مشوه
had
في رجلي.
injuries in the head, in the back. I had burns
حرفيا
in
كانت
my
شرسة.
shoulders and my legs,
الحمد
and
لله أول ما قدرت
it
إني
was
أمشي على
really,
رجلي وأسند
really
حالي، ما قدرتش يعني
ferocious,
إني أضلني
the
بعيدة عن أهلي.
injury,
بعدها كان كل فترة
and
هاي
I
كانوا
managed
خافين عني
to
خبر أهلي. كنت على
support
أساس إنه
myself.
هم
Of course,
في
throughout this
المستشفى
period,
إصابات خطيرة.
nobody told me about my
بعد ما
family. I
قدرت
thought that they were all
إني
seriously
أمشي على
injured like
رجلي
myself.
وهيك،
And when I
فأنا
managed to
قررت إن
walk on
أنا
my
أشرد من
legs
المكان اللي
again,
كانوا
I
الناس قاويني
decided to
فيه.
run
كانوا
away
قاعدين
from where people
قاوييني في
were
مكان، فأنا كنت بدي
sheltering
بدي
me.
أحرج
My
أهلي
family was
لشو أنا هون
sheltering me
وصلت.
there, and I ran away because I wanted to see my family and what had
حكوني
happened to
الخبر،
them.
فأنا طبعا
They told me
كان خبر كسرتي وكان
the news,
صاعقة. كانت
and it
بداية
broke me.
أو نكمل فيه الوجع، لأنه إحنا بدينا الوجع من 18/10
And
كملنا.
my pain just continued.
الحمد لله أول ما قدرت إني أمشي على رجلي ما استنيتش إنه حدا يجي يحكي لي يلا يا حنين، لا تواصلت مع المؤسسات، تواصلت مع مؤسستي إنقاذ المستقبل الشبابي.
I got in touch with organizations. I got in touch with my organization, Save the Youth Future Association or Society, and I told them I would like to volunteer. I don't want to stay at home, despite all of the injuries that I had, despite all of the obstacles against me reaching to the locations of activity. However, I insisted on going and providing help. And then it became even worse security-wise, food-wise, and health-wise. The health sector was just deteriorating more and more, and I was not able to find bandages or medication.
ايش من الانشطه اللي فعليا انت اعطيتي القوه لهذول الاشخاص من العطاء بعد هاي الازمه؟
تمام، أنا كنت أنزل على الميدان، كنت
I was going to the field, giving workshops in health education, also unexploded ordnance, also to give psychological relief and psychosocial support. I distributed food parcels. Also, I participated in the drawing of some murals in Gaza Strip. So what would you advise girls who went through experiences like yours? Loss is not the end. It's just a beginning of a new story filled with strength. And today on International Women's Day, we are celebrating the impact left by the women of the world. However, today we are in this extremely important position where we are making ourselves and making an example for the entire world to follow. We really hope that you will continue being able to be this giving and to be supportive of your society, leading your society and leading an entire society with your constructive activities, whether it was through Save Future Youth Future organization or other organizations that try to enhance and improve the giving of women. We thank all of the girls who participated with us from Gaza Strip, and let's conclude now or see if the girls from Jenin would like to say anything to the women of Gaza Strip or the other women of the world, how we are able to teach the entire world and all other women the ability to continue giving and to create miracles out of the uterus of suffering, exactly like a phoenix that rises again all the time from under the rubbles, from under the ashes, and be able to create life and peace again. Women of Gaza, I only see you as strong leaders from wherever you are, despite all of the circumstances that we go through. Today, we share with you similar disappointment, similar suffering, and we really salute all of the women of Gaza, all of the women of Palestine who are leading and strong women. May you always be well. We are with you. We are hand in hand with you, and hopefully we will have this unity that will bring us together. And thank you very much for this meeting where we could meet over the same screen, and many thanks to the organizers of this event. Let's take another story of Lama Al-Quraini from Jenin refugee camp, a woman who lost her house, and now currently she is a displaced woman. I'm Lama Al-Quraini from Jenin refugee camp. Welcome to you. We were displaced and we lost our 3 stories home, and now we are living in the residence or the dormitories of the Arab American universities. For a year and a half, we have been suffering and we continue to suffer, but we were happy for our friend who returned to her home safe after a year and a half of displacement in Gaza, and we hope that we will also return to our homes. So I just want to say to all the women of the world, may you always be well, and especially the women of Gaza, may you always be well and always be strong and always be leaders. I am a wife of a martyr who martyred in 2002. Nidal al-Nabali was his name. When my husband martyred, I had 7 children. The youngest was 4 months and the oldest was 9 years old. And thank God, the children grew, received education, graduated from universities, and now we are displaced again in this incursion. What the girls have suffered as children are now suffering as women and mothers. The first time after losing their homes, we went to Al-Almaniya, we went then to Al-Yamun village, and now we are again at the dormitories of the Arab American University. We really hope and aspire to go back to our homes. We really congratulate you for going back to your homes, and thank God for whatever happens in life. I would like to say to the women of Gaza that despite all of the difficult circumstances that we go through, we will always be strong, and you will always be strong, because we know this is what we have witnessed from you. Despite all of the challenges and despite all of the we were born for this struggle, and that we are capable, and of course we just want for the suffering to stop.
مناطقنا تهدمت كليا. احنا هربنا على مدارس الإيواء. طبعا مدارس الإيواء ما فيها أي مقومات للحياة، ما في عندنا لا مي ولا كهرباء ولا أي شيء ولا ملابس حتى. يعني مراكز الإيواء ما تفكروا أنها هي حميانة، بالعكس تم استهداف مدارس الإيواء، تم استهداف المستشفيات من قبل الاحتلال الإسرائيلي. الاحتلال لا برحم لا كبير ولا صغير ولا طفل ولا حجر ولا شجر. احنا وضعنا كتير مأساوي في المدارس. احنا يعني بصراحة الوضع كتير صعب جدا. بسيطة اللي بتتوفر لنا، طبعا المية بتقطع بالساعات، الكهرباء بتقطع بالساعات، الأكل مش متوفر خالص. انه الدول العالم اي واحد مسلم حر شريف يقف معانا يساعدنا. احنا كتير وضعنا صعب. حسبي الله على كل ظالم، على كل مسلم شايف اللي بيصير في غزة وساكت عن الحق. ظهر على جنب احسن نموت واحنا مش مصلين ولا احنا ظاهرين. والله حرام يا جماعه. ما بنقدرش نعمل.
ما بنعرف من وين نلاقيها. القضايا صارت تنهال علينا واحنا قاعدين. سحبنا حنا وطلعنا. جيت عند اختي في النمساوي. لما جيت عند اختي في النمساوي هذا البيت اللي جنبه في القصر. فاضطرينا ان نيجي على المدرسه. وهي حياتنا في المدرسه الحمد لله. حياه الكلاب مش عايشاها، احنا بننام هنا برا كلياتنا. الغرفه فيها 102 هذه. واحنا الباقي كله بننام برا. يعني المي بتكفيش، الاكل بكفيش، يعني رغيف ونص على يومين بجيب لك اياه. لكل نفر رغيف ونص على يومين. احنا بدناش لا اكل، بدنا شرب، بدنا نرجع على بيوتنا وبس. هي اللي بطلبه. لا بناشد العالم الدول العربيه ولا حد، بناشد نفسنا احنا نرجع على بيوتنا وبس. غير هيك ما اقدرش اقول لك. وحسبي الله ونعم الوكيل.
يمكن كثير حاجات مرت علينا أو سمعنا فيها، لكن قصة التفتيش العاري هذا ما أتوقع في يوم من الأيام إن أنا أشلح قدام جنديات. خلونا أشلح كل أواعية وفتشوني، فتشوني جنون مش مجندات.
كنا في المعتقل عنتوت تاع التحقيق، كانوا يعاملونا معاملة سيئة جدا. كانش الشفراش الشحرمات، كان الأكل مش تمام، كان نفوت الحمام وإحنا مقيدين. البيجامات اللي بيعطونا إياهن بينات بطننا وظهورنا من ورا وجسمنا يعني. فقعدت أصيح أقول لهم أنا بديش أستر حالي فيها.
ورمونا في الساحة فيها حواليها بيجي 100 جندي، كانت بلوزتي مشمرة كتير وشعري كله مبين وقاعدة على ركبي، وكانوا يضحكوا علينا ويتمسخروا علينا وقاعدين بيشربوا دخان وبيشربوا كولا.
آخر تفتيش لإلي كان هذا تفتيش الترحيل، كان قاعة كبيرة كتير، كان في عدد كبير من البنات يعني ما يقارب 11 بنت، كلهم كانوا شالحين. يمكن هذا اللي أنا نفسيا تعبانة من منظر كل ما بتذكره.
كتير تعبان لدرجة إن أنا مش طايقة نفسي، وبعاني لليوم من اللي أنا شفته ومن اللي عانيته في السجن. لليوم أنا بعاني، نفسيتي لليوم تعبانة.
يعني الواحد ضايل مصدوم لهالقيت وخايف، فيش إحساس عندك، بطلت تحس في شيء.
هو جوا وبرا وما زلت نفسيتي مدمرة يعني. عن تجربتي يمكن بكره جسمي، بكره إن أنا أرجع على غزة لجوزي، والله نفسيتي تعبانة كتير.
Good afternoon, one and all. I would like to say, may you always be well, and may you all be blessed for the holy month of Ramadan, and may all the Palestinian women be well. I am Vin Bhesi, the coordinator at Women Association in Gaza. We have a new digital app that aims to help and enhance the accessibility of GBV survivors to support services, and also it will facilitate for the individuals and the line to reach to the active players in responding to GBV to provide support services. This app will help provide information and awareness materials while providing consultations, which will be done in full confidentiality, and all of this information will be available in this app. It is important for us to join this app because both as service providers and also as survivors of GBV, because it will help enhance the accessibility of the beneficiaries to the services provided by the different organizations, and also by looking through the app you can look for the services that you need depending on your location or depending on the specialization. It also enhances the channels of communication because it facilitates for the GBV survivors to reach to get in touch with us directly by phone or using the WhatsApp application or visiting the headquarters of service providers to receive support services. This app is 100% maintains confidentiality and privacy and allows you to access the proper services. It's also part of a larger network which will contribute to developing a shared or joint database in order to facilitate the service provision and the provision of consolidated and integrated services, and to enhance also the impact. This app can be uploaded to both Android and the iOS, such as the iPhones. On the Android, you can go to the Google Play store, where you can write there Gaza al-Amal. It's the name of the app, Gaza al-Amal, which means Gaza the Hope. Once you install it, you can open the application and you can use your mobile to access it. For the iPhones, you go to the Apple Store and then you write in the search Gaza al-Amal, which means again Gaza the Hope, and then you download the app, install it, and then you open the app, and that allows you to use it. I just want to show you how the app looks like on the stores. Also, this is the interface of the app when you open it. And it includes several divisions. The first is information and awareness. Under this section, you will find articles, publications, and brochures addressing GBV and the criteria for service provision and means of protection. Now, all of these materials are updated regularly, and then we have a section for mapping the services. In the mapping of services, you will find the centers that provide services, including all of their information and contact information that provide these kinds of services, and also you will get their geographical location through this section, and also proper means of communication. The third section is asking for help and support, which allows us to get in touch with the specialists, such as psychosocial support services, and also humanitarian aid, as well as legal aid. And the fourth is the most important part. It's the privacy settings or the personal profile. You click on that in order to protect your personal information. How can we ask for help using this app? You open the app, you go to the needed support, if it was psychosocial support or legal support or cash. You select first the type of help, and then you look through the data of the service providers. You select the service, then you select the organization that might be able to provide you with the service needed. Third, we fill in the information, personal information, and be sure that this information will be dealt with the utmost confidentiality, privacy, and secrecy. And as we said, this will allow for us to and the service providers to get in touch with you quickly. Now, I have some advices for guaranteeing privacy and confidentiality and security. You need to close the app after each use, and most importantly, don't share your personal information unless you are sure that it's a service provider. And also, you can go to the settings of the app in order to guarantee further security layers. You can use it to ask for support and help in a timely manner. If it was psychosocial support or legal support or cash or health services or case management, you can get it through this. Thank you very much. And I would like to give chance to Suhair El Baba, to the coordinator of the legal aid clinic, to share with you about the services that we provide. Blessed be your efforts. May you always be brilliant and prosperous as women wherever you are. Their protection is the protection of the homeland. On March 8th, March 8th comes upon us while women are suffering the catastrophes of wars, and women are the most affected in the times of war, and they suffer many legal issues. At the Women Affairs Association, we support women and girls, and we provide them with psychosocial and legal support services in order to guarantee their access to justice. The legal clinic at the Women Affairs Center is one of the mechanisms to provide support to women and girls, and we are keen always on supporting women and girls by providing them with the necessary services, including legal services. The legal clinic inside the Women Affairs Center during the war and the emergency, we were working always for the service of women, providing them with legal or free of charge individual or collective legal aid and counseling, while guaranteeing privacy and confidentiality in providing services, because women have suffered during this period repeated displacement, lack of privacy and independence. So women were coming to us asking for legal consultations in this time. Also, the awareness workshops, we went to different locations, shelters in Dar el-Balah and Khan Yunis, providing legal services and awareness workshops on the rights of widows and divorcees in order to guarantee their better accessibility to justice. And we provided these services throughout the Gaza Strip through our lawyers who are distributed throughout the Gaza Strip, providing workshops, awareness workshops, and coordinating with the heads of shelters and schools and in the different localities in Gaza Strip. We also, among the important topics is issuing personal documents, especially that women have lost their papers after the different displacements. They lost their wedding contract or birth certificates or IDs, and they didn't know where to go to issue them again. And we managed to help many women to reissue their papers and documents, and we need to provide these services to women to help them in order to acquire these important documents, whether it was birth certificates or in the family courts, because the family courts at the time were not receiving any cases and were limited only to issuing documents, and we played a major role in helping these women to reissue their documents. Also, the social or community arbitration in light of lack of courts and filing cases. We created community arbitration committees that we get in touch with on a monthly basis in order to support women and try to help resolve their legal issues through these committees that adopt the responsibility for solving these issues, including custody and visitations, and also issues related to widows. So this community arbitration found solutions for many of the outstanding issues in order to guarantee women's access to justice. And of course, we encourage women not to hesitate to come to us to present their issues, and we promise to try as much as possible to help with solving as much as possible of their legal issues. I always say women are giving without limits, and together let's support women to access justice. Thank you. Hello, I am Inas Jarrar. I wish all the Palestinian women well. From Rural Women Development Society, we work with women in Jenin. We have established protection and emergency committees, and we work with many of our volunteers, and we have some of them here to talk about their experience in the displacement and their recent experience and what had happened with them. Good morning. How are you? Would you like please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your experience? Asma Zawaida, a displaced woman from refugee camp, a mother of 7 children, and a woman activist in the Women's Center at the refugee camp. Is this your first displacement? No. Over the course of the years, we suffered many incursions and we were displaced several times, but it was for shorter periods of time. Now, this time was different from the other ones, as since the beginning of the incursion, we left our homes without any warnings, and we had to leave our documents, and we left our homes only with the clothes on our bodies. Why it was different this time? This time it was harsher, and it was a longer period, and we didn't manage to take with us any of our belongings from the homes, and it was very terrifying. I felt it was almost like the Judgment Day. From the amount of ammunitions that were fired, what we have seen in the streets, we passed people on the street that were suffering, that were injured, and we were not able to provide them with any help or aid. It was terrifying to see a person that you don't even know if they are alive or not, and you can't even stop to know. In the beginning, we went to a village called Kharrouba. The people have hosted us, and we are grateful to them. And then from there, we went to a shelter at the Blind Association. In the past, how were the incursions? The incursions are always linked to violence, and it's always linked to the Israeli army. Wherever they are, you will see violence. They would bring the dogs, the canines, into our homes. They would beat up women, beat up children, beat up young people, men, elderlies. I'm Ruwaida Hwel. I am a displaced woman from Jenin refugee camp, and I said before, I don't see ourselves as displaced people, rather we see ourselves as guests to Jenin governorate, and since the incursion started, we became displaced, and we were surprised as we left our homes that we didn't know what was happening outside and or what is going to happen with us. It was exhausting. The roads were plowed, the homes were destroyed, and injuries all over. We went to the UNRWA school, and they sent us to a village called Berqin, and we stayed there at their village council. We have faced many difficulties and hardships in shelters, and in we left our homes with nothing. Even our documents are not with us. The only thing that we left with was our clothes. We have children, we have sick people, we have elderlies, and in the beginning we were suffering with the children, not even understanding or knowing where we can secure their needs. And also there are persons with disabilities. We had a person with disability with us, and it was a huge suffering. For women, today today there is great suffering. For example, the widespread diseases, malnutrition, lack of shelters, the infrastructure is destroyed. Now we attempted to enter the refugee camp several times, but they didn't allow us, and although they said that there was a coordination in the beginning, as soon as we got to the refugee camp, they said there is no coordination. We don't even see the regular scene we are used to. We didn't even know how to get to our homes because of the level of destruction. We tried to enter the refugee camp several times. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to reach. We thought maybe if we manage to reach to our homes, we can find anything. Many times women try to attempt to enter the refugee camps in order to at least collect their documents or the UNRWA card that they have, the documents of the children, the birth certificates. Many people even left their IDs or even a bit of money or whatever. This is what we are attempting to enter the refugee camp to bring back. Otherwise, what other shelter do I have? As a person who was born in the refugee camp, lived in the refugee camp, was displaced several times out of that refugee camp, but nothing of the sort or the magnitude since 2002. Homes were destroyed. Infrastructure is completely destroyed. Now you go to the Jenin refugee camp and you don't even notice it. There is no house that is suitable for living anymore. We don't have lands and we don't have money where we can rebuild or even to live in a leased house. So even when the Israelis will withdraw, even if there is just one corner of my house still standing, I will bring a tent and I will go there because we don't have any other alternatives. And on top of that, working women, and most of them were working in the private sector, and they were the caregivers of their households, and now they are faced with lack of work, lack of income, and lack of ability to provide for their families. So today we are suffering quite a lot of things. How was the coordination when you left the refugee camp? I didn't feel any coordination because when we left, there was shooting and there was extensive search for us and inspection, and we had to go only from one direction. The coordination could be maybe for 2 hours, and if the 2 hours are over, and even if there are 1 million people, you have to go back to the refugee camp. So, for example, I lost the chance to leave several times and I had to return back to the camp. What do you hope to go back to? We hope to go back to our homes and for peace to come to us all. We need security, we need safety, children need their schools, women need their jobs and work, and most importantly, today children have lost their academic year, especially the ones who are doing the achievement year, which is the last year of higher education at schools here in Palestine. So thank you. So, good afternoon, one and all, and may every year come upon us while women of Palestine and specifically women of Gaza Strip are well. Today, March 8th comes under exceptional and abnormal circumstances. Nobody knows what the future holds, but it doesn't take away from the fact that many Palestinian women managed to survive with their families and to save whatever is savable and salvage whatever is salvageable under these difficult circumstances. I'm Majida from the Palestinian Center for Human Rights. We would like to talk about an experience that we needed to bring the attention to, which is the women defenders of human rights and the service providers who were working throughout the time of the war. The 1.5 years that passed were not a normal year and a half, nor their outcomes. Even the logistics there was ongoing bombardment, displacement, streets that were not safe, homes that were not safe, and even the climate conditions imposed itself as an additional layer of insecurity due to the shelters and how it affected the people. At the Palestinian Center, we didn't stop at all. After a month or two from the beginning of the war, we managed to gather ourselves, and we found that we needed to work on the ground and to continue working with the most affected groups, especially the groups that were knocking our doors, asking for help and for services. What we saw in Gaza was an unprecedented movement of displacement despite the long time of wars against Gaza. The southern areas, according to the occupations classification, were safe and secure. 2 months after the war, it became evident that even the southern areas are not safe, and it created another state of displacement. There was a state of confusion and unrealistic circumstances. What the Gaza Strip have suffered created a set of violations which required the presence of supporters and service providers to deal with these groups of people. We did not hesitate for a second to be in the areas where the displaced people have gathered and lived. We never cared for bombardment, and we didn't care about the danger of the localities that we needed to arrive to, and because what mattered to us is the people that we will be able to heed, and what mattered to us is to be in all of the places where displaced women are. We went to the camps, we went to the shelters, and we tried to talk about this issue that is along with the circumstances that women have suffered from. We had young widows, we had women who lost children, we had separated women, we had wives in separation. We had many women who needed intervention and support in the legal dimension. Of course, we need food and beverages, we need a tent to shelter us, we need clothing for the children and ourselves, but at the same time we needed to be aware of the legal dimension in order to make sure that the violation against women is not complex. So it was important for women to know the financial rights of women who have lost their husbands. We wanted to introduce women who lost their children, the circumstances related to loss in general, the loss of a husband, the loss of a child, the loss of a parent. We talked about the legal dimension and also the legal services provided. As you all are aware, family courts stopped working because everything was targeted, and especially the facilities that were affiliated with the government. We all have witnessed the bombardment of hospitals and the courts that happened in the north and in Khan Yunis and other cities. work was halted at the family courts, and many of the women who had services demanded from these courts were in a state of confusion, and we needed to raise the awareness, especially with the change of place of residence. Many of women were from Jabalia, went to Deir al-Balah or moved to Rafah prior to their displacement, and then they had to move from Deir al-Balah to Nusayrat. She is in a place and her children in another, or her husband is in the north and she had to move to the shelters in the areas of displacement. She was injured. She received first aid and was moved to the southern area with no information about her family. If she was not married, then her parents, and if she's married, her children and husband. So we needed to get in touch with these women and try to give them legal information and the services that could be provided in light of the current circumstances, so that women can access these services without additional effort. Also, we had a free toll number that any woman can call for inquiries, because we noticed that in the time of war there is propaganda, misinformation, disinformation, and we were very much interested in making sure that we provide the proper legal information in the right place, in the right time, and we needed to reach out to women to explain to them the services provided by the family courts, which have moved out of their facilities into alternative facilities and had alternative services with to facilitate the life of women. And we know that many services are linked to legal documents. For example, separated women are excluded from relief services. Women who did not have any proof of divorce were excluded. Also, widows were excluded if they didn't have any proof of their loss. And we all know how much everybody was in need of relief and welfare services or humanitarian aids, and we all were aware of the difficulty of the situation. So the defenders have faced many challenges, most importantly, lack of personal safety and security. When a woman defender of human rights would go to a meeting, could never guarantee that this place would not be bombarded, because every centimeter, every square centimeter of their body and of Gaza was always exposed to bombardment. We have all went through these exceptional circumstances. People were not safe in the streets. When they reach to a location, sometimes there was not even a chair to sit on, neither for herself or for the women who are there. So they dealt with whatever is available. They would sit on the sand, on blankets, on mattresses, because the situation is unconventional. So there was a period of time that even papers and pens were not available in Gaza Strip. In order to write an address or a phone number for women to call and reach out to, and we had to find whatever to write on in order for women to be able to call. Among the challenges, also the difficult communication difficulties. Electricity, we had electricity blackouts from the first day, but alternative means of charging were not available, and even if they were available, they were exhausted due to the increased use. Internet and communication means of communication were really poor, and among 20 attempts at a call, you would manage once to get through with not more than 1 minute, and then you lose the connection. And among the challenges we faced, in order to receive the complaint or a question, I had to call 4 or 5 times in order to take the entire complaint. Many of the challenges faced were the targeting and the repeated cases of displacement. When we were working with a certain refugee camp, all of a sudden the refugee camp becomes classified as a red zone. So all of the people living in that camp would move to another location. So you will have to find again the people that you started working with in order to continue providing the service or to start new services if the service you provided in the beginning is inactive at the moment. Also, it was related to the magnitude of needs of women, and we were fully aware that the work provided does not reach even to the bare minimum of the magnitude of the needs. We know that women needed to see their children. She had no information about her children who were displaced because she was separated in the beginning. She was displaced with her family, and the husband and the children are displaced to a different location. So they had no information about the children whatsoever, if they are alive or not, how to see them or not. This was a major issue for women. So when working, we didn't have clear directions to go through or clear addresses to reach out to, and even the family courts became unstable, and there was a period of time where we needed to update the data on the facilities and who are the judges and what kind of services are provided and where, and if there is an increase in the services or not, in order to keep the women aware of the developments. One of the bigger challenges we had is that if we want to publish any contact information or related to the services on social media, women needed to be needed to have a connection. Many women were disconnected. They lost their mobiles or they were stolen. There were no laptops or devices or tablets. Many people survived only with the clothes on their bodies. So it was difficult. Nevertheless, we continued to work and we provided services and we communicated, and we really hope that God will grant us with more patience, and we will continue working. To conclude, I really hope that the upcoming period would be worthy of the patience and the efforts that the women have exerted to be at least at the same level of the efforts exerted, and the upcoming period to be fruitful and to be appreciative of what women have done and to compensate women as they should be compensated. And thank you, and blessed be your efforts. By the end of this day, we would like to thank all of the participants and the organizers of this space given to the women and girls who came to participate with us on this day and share their stories clearly, to raise their voices to the entire globe, sharing messages that they want the entire world to hear. Resilience now is a word that is hated by most of Palestinian women because in practically their capacity for bearing such pain is much less than it was prior to October 7th. So we are really grateful for all of the stories shared, and we really thank all of the organizations and the organizers of this event and these spaces. And may women of Palestine and Gaza and Jenin and Tulkarem and everywhere around the world be well every day of every year. And thank you very much.